Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Welcome to Ask Rob and Rob. It's another week of answering your property questions. It works pretty well as long as you send your questions in. So if you do have something on your mind and you'd love to know an answer, the way to get it across to us and to get on the show is so easy.
It certainly is. It's all in one safe place. And that is the Property Hub website. Go to propertyhub.net/ask and you can get your question in there. There's a few ways you can do it, and you can even get your question to appear in the Sunday Times as well. Now, that's very exciting, but what is more exciting is that we have a question to answer right here, right now. And that first question is in from Ross.
Hi, Rob and Rob. Ross here. Thanks for all the great content that you're putting out there. It's really, really helpful in terms of assisting in negotiating the maze that is the property investment sphere. So please keep up the good content. I've got a quick question really about arrangement fees. They're obviously fairly significant at the minute. And I was wondering whether you would advise paying the arrangement fee upfront out of my own cash or putting it on top of the mortgage, so thereby paying a fair bit of interest on it over time, but also potentially benefiting from that figure reducing in value over time through the powers of inflation. Any advice would be really greatly appreciated. Cheers.
Ross, thank you for your question. The quick answer is ask a broker. The more helpful answer is this. It all comes down to the numbers. And for me, I wouldn't necessarily just accept the higher arrangement fees, because you have products that have higher arrangement fees and lower rates. And then you have slightly higher rates with lower arrangement fees. So before I get to the calculation that you're looking at, I would be looking at the calculation of that to decide which way to go forward. I would also be looking at the length of time I'd be fixing for as well, if indeed you are looking at fixes. Because if you are doing a 2-year fix, the impact of an arrangement fee is going to have far bigger consequences than, say, a 5-year fix. And when you run the numbers through, it may be that it guides your decision on how long you go for. And then finally, it comes to the question you've actually asked, which is, do you pay it up front or put it into the mortgage? Personally, I roll it up. I always have done. You can, again, run the calculation to see how much interest you'd actually pay by paying it outright. But for me, if the interest rate is low enough, I would be more likely to roll it up in my mortgage and keep the cash available to me in the belief that I could make it work harder. So why does this come back to my original answer of use a broker? Well, that's their job, a good broker's job anyway. A good mortgage broker will be able to guide you through all of those calculations, not just the one you're looking at, and help you make the best and most informed decision. Now, like in all walks of life, mortgage brokers are not created equal. And I would challenge them with these questions. And if you're not getting confident answers from them, I'd be looking for a different broker. Ideally, you want a broker that specialises in buy-to-let and doesn't just do buy-to-let as part of their day job. It needs to be the dominant part of their day job. So if you've got someone in place, amazing. But if you haven't, rather than getting your calculator out, get searching and get yourself a great broker, because they will make a big difference, not just with the financial calculations, but also making your life easier as well. Which is why, after all these years, Rob and I continue to use mortgage brokers. But whatever you decide, Ross, best of luck.
Yes, indeed. Let's hear our next question now from Hollie.
Hi, Rob and Rob. It's Hollie here from Portsmouth. I've been listening to your podcast for a few months now, around the same time that myself and my partner bought our first buy-to-let property. I've learned a ton from you guys, so thank you for that. And your YouTube content has been incredibly helpful as well. So a big thanks to you both. So we've been lucky enough to purchase our first property below market value, as it needed a lot of renovation work. Our initial plan was to gradually expand our portfolio in purchasing rundown properties every couple of years, focusing on the Portsmouth and Southampton area. This makes sense for us as my partner is a builder and he's a plumber and gas engineer as well. So he can handle most of the renovation work himself. Buying local seemed like the way to go for us, really. Our strategy would involve refinancing when we're coming up to our remortgaging the properties and then repeating the process. However, after listening to your podcast and taking on your advice on areas to avoid for capital growth reasons, we're reconsidering our plan. We're now thinking about investing in one of your recommended hotspot areas like Nottingham, maybe using an off-plan, off-hands approach for potential higher capital growth over time. Our main concern with this is it might take a little longer to build our portfolio. We are in it for the long game, so capital growth is important to us as well as a passive income from rentals. We would greatly appreciate any advice you have or knowledge that you can give us, and thanks again.
Hollie, thanks for your question. My answer would be, don't listen to us. Don't do what we do. And the reason for that is that you have a strategy that you've chosen because it fits you. You have the ability to do something in property that most other people don't. And from the sound of it, you have the desire to do it as well. So if you were finding this to be a giant grind and you hated every second of it, I'd be giving you different advice. But on the basis this is something that you enjoy doing, or at least don't mind doing, the fact that you've got the skills in-house to make improvements to these properties, and as a result, you'll be able to do it cheaper than most other people will be able to do it. You're going to be adding value every time. Will the value you add be more or less than you'd get by investing in a capital growth hotspot and just letting the market do the work for you? Well, the answer is going to be both. Sometimes the market will be really kind and prices will shoot up in certain areas with no work required. Other times they won't, and your value add approach will come out ahead. But either way, the way that you're doing it is a lot more predictable. You're not relying on the market doing anything particular, and it's something that you have control over. The key here is that you've got the ability to do something that most people can't. So it makes sense to include that in your strategy. Most people don't have the ability to do that, but they still go out and attempt to do the same thing that you're doing. And that's where we often say, are you sure that's a good idea? Do you have an edge here, or are you just attempting something that's going to be a whole load of work, but not really get you ahead compared to if you took a more hands-off approach and strategically invested in the best areas? So my take on this, Hollie, would be keep on doing what you're doing. And remember, you can always change over time. So if it comes to a point where it's just not enjoyable anymore, or you're not finding the opportunities, or whatever it is, you can always refinance to take your cash out of one of those properties and then put it into one of these other locations. There's always the option to change your strategy. And I've spoken in the past about how I've been too slow to change strategy. So I think it's always worth questioning as part of your annual review if the way that you've chosen to do things still makes sense for you today, because it won't always. But for now, it sounds like you are doing the right thing. So my advice would be keep on doing it. And something else you should keep on doing is listening to the podcast, of course, because we're going to be back on Thursday with the Property Podcast as always. And it's going to be a particularly good one this week. So do make sure you join us. Until then, have a great week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.